Almost the same circumstances which gave birth to Buddhism in India surrounded the rise of Krishna. Not only this, the events of that day we find happening in our own times. There is a certain ideal. At the same time, there must always be a large majority of the human race who cannot come up to the ideal, not even intellectually. The strong ones carry it out and many times have no sympathy for the weak. The weak to the strong are only beggars. The strong ones march ahead. Of course, we see at once that the highest position to take is to be sympathetic and helpful to those who are weak. But then, in many cases, the philosopher bars the way to our being sympathetic. If we go by the theory that the whole of this infinite life has to be determined by the few years' existence here and now, then it is very hopeless for us, and we have no time to look back upon those who are weak. But if these are not the conditions, if the world is only one of the many schools through which we have to pass, if the eternal life is to be molded and fashioned and guided by the eternal law, and eternal chances await everyone, then we need not be in a hurry. We have time to sympathize, to look around, stretch out a helping hand to the weak and bring them up. With Buddhism, we have two words in Sanskrit. One is translated religion, the other a sect. It is the most curious fact that the disciples and descendants of Krishna have no name for their religion, although foreigners call it Hinduism or Brahmanism. There is one religion, and there are many sects. The moment you give it a name, individualize it, and separate it from the rest, it is a sect, no more a religion. A sect proclaims its own truth and declares that there is no truth anywhere else. Religion believes that there has been, and still is, one religion in the world. There never were two religions. It is the same religion presenting different aspects in different places. Their task is to conceive the proper understanding of the goal and scope of humanity. This was the great work of Krishna, to clear our eyes and make us look with broader vision upon humanity in its march upward and onward. His was the first heart that was large enough to see truth in all. His the first lips that uttered beautiful words for each and all. This Krishna preceded Buddha by some 1,000 years. A great many people do not believe that he ever existed. Some believe that the worship of Krishna grew out of the old sun worship. There seem to be several Krishnas. One was mentioned in the Upanishads, another was king, another a general. All have been lumped into one Krishna. It does not matter much. The fact is, some individual comes who is unique in spirituality. Then all sorts of legends are invented around him. But all the Bibles and stories which come to be cast upon this one person have to be recast in the mold of his character. All the stories of the New Testament have to be modeled upon the accepted life and character of Christ. In all of the Indian stories about Buddha, the one central note of that whole life is kept up: sacrifice for others. In Krishna we find two ideas stand supreme in his message. The first is the harmony of different ideas. The second is non-attachment. A man can attain to perfection, the highest goal, sitting on a throne, commanding armies, working out big plans for nations. In fact, Krishna's great sermon was preached on the battlefield. Krishna saw plainly through the vanity of all the mummeries, mockeries, and ceremonials of the old priests, and yet he saw some good in them. If you are a strong man, very good. But do not curse others who are not strong enough for you. Everyone says, "Woe unto you people." Who says, "Woe unto me that I cannot help you"? The people are doing all right to the best of their ability and means and knowledge. Woe unto me that I cannot lift them to where I am. So the ceremonials, worship of gods and myths are all right, Krishna says. Why? because they all lead to the same goal. Ceremonies, books, and forms, all these are links in the chain. Get hold. That is the one thing. If you are sincere and have really got hold of one link, do not let go. The rest is bound to come. But people do not get hold. They spend the time quarreling and determining what they should get hold of, and do not get hold of anything. We are always after truth, but never want to get it. We simply want the pleasure to go about and ask. We have a lot of energy and spend it that way. That is why Krishna says, "Get hold of any one of these chains that are stretched out from the common center. No one step is greater than another. Blame no view of religion so far as it is sincere. Hold on to one of these links, and it will pull you to the center. Your heart itself will teach all the rest. The teacher within will teach all the creeds, all the philosophies." Krishna talks of himself as God, as Christ does. He sees the deity in himself, and he says, "None can go a day out of my path. All have to come to me. Whosoever wants to worship in whatsoever form, I give him faith in that form, and through that I meet him." His heart is all for the masses. Independent, Krishna stands out. The very boldness of it frightens us. We depend upon everything, upon a few good words, upon circumstances. When the soul wants to depend upon nothing, not even upon life, that is the height of philosophy, the height of manhood. Worship leads to the same goal. Krishna lays great stress upon worship. Worship God. Various sorts of worship we see in this world. The sick man is very worshipful to God. There is the man who loses his fortune. He also prays very much to get money. The highest worship is that of the man who loves God for God's sake. The question may be asked, why should there be so much sorrow if there is a God? The worshipper replies, there is misery in the world, but because of that, I do not cease to love God. I do not worship him to take away my misery. I love him because he is love itself. The other types of worship are lower grade, but Krishna has no condemnation for anything. It is better to do something than to stand still. The man who begins to worship God will grow by degrees and begin to love God for love's sake. How to attain purity, living this life? Shall we all go to the forest caves? What good would it do? If the mind is not under control, it is no use living in a cave, because the same mind will bring all disturbances there. We will find 20 devils in the cave, because all the devils are in the mind. If the mind is under control, we can have the cave anywhere, wherever we are. It is our own mental attitude which makes the world what it is for us. Our thoughts make things beautiful. Our thoughts make things ugly. The whole world is in our own minds. Learn to see things in the proper light. First, believe in this world, that there is meaning behind everything. Everything in the world is good, is holy, and beautiful. If you see something evil, think that you are not understanding it in the right light. Throw the burden on yourselves. Whenever we are tempted to say that the world is going to the dogs, we ought to analyze ourselves, and we shall find that we have lost the faculty of seeing things as they are, work day and night. Behold, I am the Lord of the universe. I have no duty. Every duty is bondage. But I work for work's sake. If I cease to work for a minute, there would be chaos. So do thou work without any idea of duty. This world is a play. You are his playmates. Go on and work without any sorrow, without any misery. See his play in the slums, in the saloons. Work to lift people. Not that they are vile or degraded. Krishna does not say that. Do you know why so little good work is done? My lady goes to the slum. She gives a few ducats and says, "My poor men, take that and be happy." Or my fine woman walking through the street, sees a poor fellow and throws him 5 cents. Think of the blasphemy of it. Blessed are we that the Lord has given us his teaching in your own testament. Jesus says, Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. It is blasphemy to think that you can help anyone. First root out this idea of helping, and then go to worship. God's children are your master's children, and children are but different forms of the Father. You are his servant. Serve the living God. God comes to you in the blind, in the halt, in the poor, in the weak, in the diabolical. What a glorious chance for you to worship. The moment you think you are helping, you undo the whole thing and degrade yourself. Knowing this, work. What follows, you say? You do not get that heartbreak, that awful misery. Then work is no more slavery. It becomes a play and joy itself. Work. Be unattached. That is the whole secret. If you get attached, you become miserable. With everything we do in life, we identify ourselves. Here is a man who says harsh words to me. I feel anger coming on me. In a few seconds, anger and I are one, and then comes misery. Attach yourselves to the Lord and to nothing else, because everything else is unreal. Attachment to the unreal will bring misery. There is only one existence that is real, only one life in which there is neither object nor subject. But unattached love will not hurt you. Do anything. Marry. Have children. Do anything you like. Nothing will hurt you. Do nothing with the idea of mine. Duty for duty's sake. Work for work's sake. What is that to you? You stand aside. When we come to that non-attachment, then we can understand the marvelous mystery of the universe, how it is intense activity and vibration, and at the same time, intensest peace and calm, how it is work every moment and rest every moment. That is the mystery of the universe, the impersonal and personal in one, the infinite and finite in one. Then we shall find the secret. He who finds in the midst of intense activity the greatest rest, and in the midst of the greatest rest intense activity, he has become a yogi. He alone is a real worker, none else. We do a little work and break ourselves. Why? We become attached to that work. If we do not become attached, side by side with it we have infinite rest. How hard it is to arrive at this sort of non-attachment. Therefore, Krishna shows us the lower ways and methods. The easiest way for everyone is to do his or her work and not take the results. It is our desire that binds us. If we take the results of actions, whether good or evil, we will have to bear them. But if we work not for ourselves, but all for the glory of the Lord, the results will take care of themselves. To work you have the right, but not to the fruits thereof. The soldier works for no results. He does his duty. If defeat comes, it belongs to the general, not to the soldier. We do our duty for love's sake, love for the general, love for the Lord. If you are strong, take up the Vedanta philosophy and be independent. If you cannot do that, worship God. If not, worship some image. If you lack strength even to do that, do some good works without the idea of gain. Offer everything you have unto the service of the Lord. Fight on. Leaves and water and one flower, whosoever lays anything on my altar, I receive it with equal delights. If you cannot do anything, not a single good work, then take refuge in the Lord. The Lord resides within the heart of the being, making them turn upon his wheel. Do thou with all thy soul and heart take refuge in him. These are some of the general ideas that Krishna preached on this idea of love in the Gita. There are in other great books sermons on love, as with Buddha, as with Jesus. A few words about the life of Krishna. There is a great deal of similarity between the lives of Jesus and Krishna. A discussion is going on as to which borrowed of the other. There was the tyrannical king in both places. Both were born in a manger. The parents were bound in both cases. Both were saved by angels. In both cases, all the boys born in that year were killed. The childhood is the same. Again, in the end, both were killed. Krishna was killed by accident. He took the man who killed him to heaven. Christ was killed and blessed the robber and took him to heaven. There are a great many similarities of the New Testament and the Gita. The human thought goes the same way. I will find you the answer in the words of Krishna himself. Whenever virtue subsides and irreligion prevails, I come down. Again and again I come. Therefore, whenever thou seest a great soul struggling to uplift mankind, know that I am come and worship. At the same time, if he comes as Jesus or as Buddha, why is there so much schism? The preachings must be followed. A Hindu devotee would say, it is God himself who became Christ and Krishna and Buddha and all these great teachers. A Hindu philosopher would say, these are the great souls. They are already free. And though free, they refuse to accept their liberation while the whole world is suffering. They come again and again, take a human embodiment and help mankind. They know from their childhood what they are and what they come for. They do not come through bondage like we do. They come out of their own free will and cannot help having tremendous spiritual power. We cannot resist it. The vast mass of mankind is dragged into the whirlpool of spirituality, and the vibration goes on because one of these great souls gives a push. So it continues until all mankind is liberated and the play of this planet is finished. Glory unto the great souls whose lives we have been studying. They are the living gods of the world. They are the persons whom we ought to worship. If he comes to me, I can only recognize him if he takes a human form. He is everywhere. But do we see him? We can only see him if he takes the limitation of man. If men and animals are manifestations of God, these teachers of mankind are leaders, are gurus. Therefore, salutations unto you, whose footstool is worshipped by angels. Salutations unto you, leaders of the human race. Salutations unto you, great teachers. You leaders have our salutations forever and ever.